My name is David. I'm an INFJ. I am an author. I'm a dude on the internet, and I have some stuff that I want to talk about in terms of whether INFJs are the rarest type. Is that true or is that false? We're going to dig into it, and we're not going to find an answer. But there's some really interesting stuff out there about it. Before I begin, thank you for being here, for watching this. Please subscribe, like, hit the bell. If you'd like to support this channel, the best way to do that sorry, I had to go and get the book. The book, right? This is my book. It is supernatural fiction. It is really cool, in a really cool world. 350-ish pages, and it's on Amazon right now. You can go get it, or on Kindle. That's cool too. Please, pretty please, buy it. If you have read it, write the review, stick it on Amazon. I greatly appreciate it. That would be fantastic. If you're not into reading, and if you just like to buy me a cup of coffee, my link is down there for Venmo and PayPal. Just if you could throw a little bit of scratch my way, I would greatly appreciate it. If this video or any of my other videos have helped you, it helps me keep all this going because this is a time investment and equipment investment and all of those things, and your support matters greatly. So thank you. Now, onto the topic. I'm going to be honest, there is a personal bias here because as an INFJ, I hate the whole rarest type drumbeat that tends to go on the internet. It's irritating as hell. I can't stand it. It bothers me. It bothers me that so many people focus on it as, oh, INFJ, the rarest type, INFJ, the mystical, magical Jedi, INFJ, the, super ultra mega rare of the types and only 1% of the population and all that crap that's out there. I'm telling you, 94.7% of the statistics made up on the internet are actually made up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't even matter. It doesn't hold water. Nobody is actually citing anything remotely scientific. There is nothing out there other than circumstantial or anecdotal evidence to support the fact that as an INFJ, you are the rarest type. So where's the root of this? I really don't know. I think in like historical psychology, as far as going back to my boy Carl, right, and how this personality typing system kind of came about, it was probably said at one point or another that INFJs are a rare type, and that is something that people will latch onto and run with. It sure does seem like, on the internet at least, you can't turn in one direction without bumping into another INFJ. Like, we're everywhere. Okay. I mean, this channel has thousands and thousands of INFJs on it. It's just, it seems to be the thing. You know what's not around is like a whole bunch of ESFJs or a whole bunch of ESTJs hanging out on the internet discussing their personality type. Now, there are reasons for that. So I want to get into a little bit of the INFJ cognitive functions and just those letters, the letters of I, N, F, and J, and kind of think through why they may or may not be perceived as rarest and what this all means, which, spoiler alert, it just means nothing, right? It is truly meaningless to be labeled as a rare type. In 1998, the first random sampling of population taken by the Myers-Briggs Foundation, by the way, that's where MBTI comes from, found that there is a higher percentage of introverts versus extroverts in our population. Think about that for a second, because we are always hearing that introverts are rarer than extroverts, and we live in an extroverted society. It's something that I've said many, many times. So we have to immediately worry about the bias of any kind of a random sampling. It's like election polling. Like, you have no idea how these people are answering, who they're answering, what they're self-identifying as anyway. I mean, there's so many variables that the statistic itself is meaningless, but it's one of the only things that we have to hold on to. And by that metric, you have a higher percentage of introverts versus extroverts. So you would imagine that there would be a higher percentage of INFJs just because of that stat alone. After all, we're knocking out the major letter right there, E's versus I's. What's more is that it found that there is a higher percentage of introverted males than introverted females. Females tend to be more extroverted. Now, again, this is Myers-Briggs. This is their organizational sample. I don't know how many people it went by, like how many, I don't know if it was like 8 people or if it was 3,000 people or what. It's not the entire population. And these tests, who knows if they were actually administered in such a way that it was really dug down as to who is what type, as in terms of self-identifying. But for the purposes of this, just introvert versus extrovert, that stat alone blows away the notion that INFJs are the rarest type and that INFJ males are far rarer than INFJ females. Because if you have a higher percentage of introverts and a higher percentage of introverts are male, well, then it starts to get really weird to try and make sense of that statistic, doesn't it? Be that as it may, think about the actual letters of INFJ. I think that it is more likely the case that there's a higher percentage of people that are sensors versus intuitives. We live in a very concrete world. We live in a world that is very much so sensor oriented. And typically there has always been a bit of a stigma against those who are quiet and more internal. What's wrong with you? You're a shut-in. Like, you start to hear these words, about how this person is labeled as somebody that doesn't like to go out, doesn't like to be around people, is just like, in their cabin, in the woods, in a hoodie, with sunglasses, probably doing something illegal. Like, you don't know, right? So where does all of this come from? All of this talk about introverts being the super rare and INFJs being the super rare type. I really do believe this snowballed from a couple of brief observations across what is most likely a very small sampling size. Now, Psychology Junkie, which is a great site, it's psychologyjunkie.com, right? It's a great site run by a woman named Susan Storm. I believe she is in England. And they do all sorts of articles and stuff about all of the MBTI types. And she did her own, just sending it out to the mailing list, basically, and throwing it out there with a few hundred people and saying, what do you identify as? And I believe from hers, INFJ was not the rarest response. But then again, that's the response. See, something else that some of these studies point out is that people who are introverted tend to look online, tend to look in the internet and in books to uncover their true self, their real self. Whereas extroverts tend to find out who they really are by being out and about in the world and through social interactions involving other people, which introverts, because they're introverts, they're not going to do that. So already, if it seems like there's a lot of INFJs on the internet, evidence supports the fact that introverted types, are more likely to be looking to themselves and looking to find out about themselves online. We are introverted. We're very internal. We want to do that work in here and in a way that we can control and not be thrust out into the extroverted world in order to figure out what the hell we are. Now let's talk about that combination of the N and the F, right? Being intuitive and being a feeler, right? Or extroverted feeling and introverted intuition. That combination is a rarer combination. People tend not to use their gut on decisions as much as people use logic in their decisions. It's pretty rare that somebody would go to, for instance, a car dealership and being like, I just got a good vibe about this car, I'm going to buy it, without actually looking into anything related to safety or reliability or any of the features in there. And those are all logical things that you're trying to put together. Now, certainly, you may have an emotional attachment to it. I have been that guy that has walked into a music store, saw a guitar up on there, and said, it is calling to me, it is speaking my name, I must have it, I need it, it's mine, it's talking to me, and I'm going to be a great and amazing player if I get this guitar, which of course you never are. It's just a tool, right? But there's something to be said for that decision making, and how as an introverted person, you are going to be a little bit more on your gut as far as things go, as opposed to an extroverted person who is going to be a little bit more out as far as that, running their decision by a bunch of friends and family, seeing what they're saying, so on and so forth. That's kind of the way it would normally work. So if you want to call that introverted person being an intuitive about it, sure, like go ahead, which may or may not be the case, which is just like anything related to unraveling this mess of this rarest type, I'm going to say it, nonsense that is out there. And remember too, that even though you may be an INFJ and test as an INFJ and that it does resonate for you, that these are preferences. It's not truly hardwiring. You have a preference towards introversion. That's why you have an I in your functions. You have a preference toward being an intuitive, whatever that preference would be. This is why I like that human metrics test that gives you that sliding scale, because I think it's important to see the fact that, okay, you have a slight preference towards introversion versus extroversion. You have a slight preference of feeling versus thinking. It doesn't mean that you're not a thinker. Just because you're an INFJ doesn't mean, well, I don't have a T there, so I'm just not going to ever use logic. I'm a feeler, and that's that. It doesn't work that way. You have all of them. You can be all the things. You can use all of those things. Because if you couldn't, and if it was just black and white, that means that all INFJs are completely incapable of using logic, which, admittedly, has felt true sometimes. I don't ignore red flags. Do you ignore red flags? Like I'm a bull, and like when they wave the red flag, I'm like, yes, okay. Anyway, that's the topic for another video. So what do we do with this confusing information? Because it really is confusing. First of all, wrap your head around the fact that at no point is there ever going to be, or has there ever been, an actual concrete scientific study to determine which of these types is actually the rarest. It is all conjecture. It is all anecdotal, right? I don't know any other INFJs, therefore INFJs must be rare. Well, that doesn't make it true. That just means that you don't know many INFJs. I think the main thing is wrap your head around the fact that it doesn't matter. Just because you're an INFJ doesn't mean you're rare. Just because an INFJ doesn't mean you are special or above any other type. And it also doesn't mean that you are less than or below any other type. If it is true that the introvert-extrovert split is somewhere around 50-50, I have my suspicions about that. I believe that we are in a more extroverted society, but who knows? That might just be because all the introverts are hiding. Think about it. But if that's really the case, then what does it even matter? You're you. And I think the main thing, and what people tend to forget, is that you need to be doing the work on your own to understand who you are, how you interact with others, what their personalities are like, and how they interact with you. And once you really wrap your head around all of that, you can grow. And then, does it matter if you're rare? No, it doesn't. Does it matter that you're labeled one way or another? No, it doesn't. And when you understand that being an INFJ is in fact on a scale, you'll know. Two INFJs aren't necessarily alike. In some cases, vastly, vastly different. Your personality can be different from another INFJ. Your cognitive functions, the wheels and the cogs in there, may be turning in the same directions. That's what it's like thinking as an INFJ next to another INFJ that is thinking the way they're thinking. But the decisions you make, how you react to things, those are personality driven. That's not driven by your cognitive functions. That's driven by your experiences and what you've been through in your life. I'll give you a simple thought experiment to prove this point. You have two INFJs. They're both 25 years old. One of them was just in a relationship with a narcissist for 10 years, right? High school sweetheart type of thing. Turned out to be an awful person. One of them has not been in any relationship at all. They may test as INFJs the same way, the same percentages of introversion, of intuitive, of feeling, of judging, of everything, right? All of it could be identical. Do you think those two people going into a relationship at the same time are going to feel the same way about it or react the same way. Because I guarantee you, the person who was with a narcissist for 10 years is not going to have the same personality as the person who has not been in a relationship. So yeah, you can be two INFJs and appear on the outside as being vastly different. Your cogs are the same, sure. Your personality is colored by your experiences. And whatever those experiences are, make up who you are, as well as all those gears turning in there. Rarest type or not, it doesn't matter. Understanding that and understanding how you work, that's the key. Really just wanted to talk about something very thought-provoking to throw out there for you today. And have a look in the mirror. Do you, as an INFJ, hang on to this rarest type thing as a kind of badge of honor? Do you hang on to it as like, well, I'm rare, so I'm special? Do you hang on to it as, well, I'm rare, so nobody understands me? Because none of these things are the case. If you know who you are and you know how you work, well, that's pretty much a key to unlocking how you are in all of your personal relationships, isn't it? That's a reason why you procrastinate. It's a reason why you can understand the way you are in different settings and circumstances. And that's a really, really good thing. Know thyself. Know thyself, my sweet, sweet INFJ. And I think more than anything, as a group, we need to let go of this rarest type nonsense. Because nobody knows, and nobody's going to know. There's literally nothing that you can hang on to that proves that an INFJ is 1% to 2% of the population, and INFJ males are rarer than females, etc., etc. You can find evidence to refute it. You can find evidence to support it. So really, it doesn't matter. It's all external mumbo jumbo, and what you need to do is focus on you and be better than the person looking back in that mirror. Every day. Every day, try to be better than the day before. And if you understand yourself a little bit more and you dig in and you do some of that research, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when somebody says you're not a real INFJ. Who cares? Off you go. I don't care what you are. I don't care what you say. It doesn't matter when somebody says, oh, you're an INFJ, you're a Jedi, you have these superpowers, you can read people and you know what people are saying in a different country, in a different language at any moment in time. No, you don't. You don't. So cut out all of this noise, please, for your sake, and for the sake of other INFJs who are just finding out about their type and getting into this. I think it's really important that we ground ourselves in some reality right now. Understand that there are some questions that we don't know the answers to, and we're not going to, and that's totally okay. The more important thing is to do the internal work, to be a good person, to be honest, to understand yourself, and to improve and grow. For me, man, I'm a writer, okay? I'm a published author. The book is here. I have to do this thing right now. Please buy it. It's on Amazon, and it's great, and it's got lots of great reviews. I'm 10 reviews away from 100, which is really cool. But I couldn't have written this book if I didn't understand the way I work as an INFJ. And I think really learning about this and understanding yourself is the key to growing as a person and accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. So stay strong out there, my sweet, sweet INFJ friends. Stay strong. Do the work and just try and tune out all this noise about what you are and about other people's opinions of you because of it. It doesn't matter. Focus on you. Take the time right now to focus on you. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope this was thought-provoking. Please, pretty please, put in the comments your thoughts on this rarest type stuff and your outlook on it. What you think about this video. I mean, go ahead, have at it, man. Let's have a discussion about this. I will be seeing you again very, very soon.